The government is claiming that there is now an international terror twist to Prime Minister Modi's security breach. As the Supreme Court was hearing the case today, the Solicitor General made an explosive claim, declaring that the banned Khalistan Group Seeks for Justice gave a public call against the Prime Minister just days before his visit to Punjab. The SG also said that the breach could be an act of international terrorism. Videos accessed by the media show the SFJ founder provoking Punjab's youth to act against the Prime Minister.
5 जनवरी ਨੂੰ ਦੇਸ਼ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਮੰਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ
Sikh terrorist and separatist organisation Seeks for Justice founder Gurpatwant Singh Pannu's viral video calling for violence ahead of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Punjab. The banned Sikh separatist organisation had called for protest during the Prime Minister's visit to Punjab. Pannu had asked for the protests, and videos have been doing the rounds on social media on blocking the Prime Minister's cavalcade. SFJ even announced a reward of $1 lakh for protesting against the Prime Minister.
5 ਜਨਵਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਸ਼ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਮੰਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਇਸ ਦਾ ਵਿਰੋਧ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਦੇਸ਼ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਵਾਲਿਓ ਵਿਰੋਧ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਤੇ ਕਿਸਾਨ ਭਾਰਤੀ ਹਕੂਮਤ ਦੀ ਈਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੰਨਦਾ 5 ਜਨਵਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੇ ਕੋਈ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਵਾਲਾ ਹੈ ਚਾਹੇ ਪੱਤਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਚਾਹੇ ਹਸਪਤਾਲ ਦਾ ਕਰਮਚਾਰੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੁੱਤੀ ਵਿਖਾਓ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੂ ਤੇ $1 lakh
The Pakistan-backed terror outfit banned in India is under the scanner after the massive security breach during the Prime Minister's visit to Punjab. Solicitor General Tushar Mehta spoke of the videos of the separatist Sikh organizations in Supreme Court, saying that the breach could potentially be an incident of international terror. He sought a probe into the international conspiracy angle, saying cross-border terror cannot be ruled out. The Solicitor General sought National Investigation Agency be roped in to carry out probe into the lapses. Seeks for Justice is a banned separatist organisation based out of the United States run by Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, a lawyer by profession. SFJ is banned in India under the UAPA. Pannu, with the help of Pakistan's ISI and Khalistani separatists in the US, Canada, Germany, Italy and the UK, has been carrying out a fraud referendum on Khalistan. Security analysts believe that the security breach and the Prime Minister being stranded on a flyover for close to 20 minutes, not far from the Pakistan border, calls for a detailed investigation into the cross-border terror angle. Recently, after the Ludhiana blast, a SFJ member and a close associate of Pannu, Jaswinder Singh Multani, was arrested in Germany for providing logistics and support for the terror strike. Government of India had requested the government of Germany to arrest Multani. The Sikh separatist threat ahead of Punjab elections appears to be a major cause for concern. Bureau Report, India Today.
What we have on camera at this moment is Gurpatwant Singh Sandhu, who's from the Sikhs for Justice, a known Khalistani radical who's always up to no good, who put out the video. The question is, does that establish that there was a Khalistani angle to the protest by the farmers, or were the farmers acting on their own, or were they inspired by this video and by others in the Khalistani circles who've been making these kind of demands? Joining me on the Newstrack to talk about the next step in the probe in this big breach, we've got representing the BJP, Nupur Sharma. Charan Singh Sapra represents the Congress. Shashi Kant is a former Director General of Police in Punjab. And last but not least, I have Harmeet Singh Shah, who is a senior editor with India Today. He's travelling through the state of Punjab, reporting on this big election for us. I want to go across first and foremost to Nupur Sharma, because what we've seen in court is that the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta says that there is an angle of potential cross-border terrorism. People in the Congress are saying that just because Gurpatwant Singh Sandhu has put out this video doesn't mean that the farmers at that spot between Bathinda and Firozpur were actually acting on Sandhu's behest. It just means that he put out this video, he's always up to no good, he's always up to anti-India activities. It doesn't prove that the farmers were acting on his call. How do you respond to this? Let's start with Nupur Sharma.
Well, good evening, Rahul, to you, to your to my co-panelists and to your viewers also. First and foremost, if the Honorable Supreme Court didn't find any merit in this entire allegation, they wouldn't have handed over the probe to NIA. It was also observed during the course of arguments before the Honorable Chief Justice that it can't, because it's about the security of the Honorable Prime Minister. Let's just concentrate on the chair of the Prime Minister of India. Certainly, the probe can't be done by a local state police probe panel. Thirdly, if the SFJ was not dangerous, the governments of the day would not have banned the outfit. So, to make light of the security paraphernalia and the protocol to be followed as far as the Honorable Prime Minister's route is concerned, I think that just does not behove of a party who's actually lost 2 of its prime ministers in terrorist attacks. Secondly, it is very important to also make note of those videos which are eerily and chillingly very similar to actually what happened on the flyover. I'm talking about the ones which surfaced on YouTube some 13-14 months ago. If you see, the Honorable Prime Minister is again traveling in his cavalcade, in his convoy, and he's stopped by some protesters. He's surrounded. There are people who have baseball bats in their hands, he's blocked from all angles, and he's on top of flyover. So the similarities are chilling, to say the least. And
okay,
I think,
so the government at this time, Charan Singh
Sapra
seems convinced that there is a Khalistani angle led by the Sikhs for Justice, who at any time are up to no good. But the Solicitor General alleging that the farmers who were protesting against the Prime Minister's cavalcade that was passing by seem to have been inspired by these kind of provocative, incendiary, seditious videos put out by Gurpatwant Sandhu.
See, number one, I would like to say that this Sikhs for Justice, this is a fringe group abroad, UK, US, this fringe group is there. But I don't think so they have any stakeholders or followers in Punjab or in India. Whereas the other part of your question is concerned that the protesting farmers, were they impressed by these videos or were they influenced by these videos? I don't think so. Because these are the same farmers who have been sitting in Delhi for 378 days. They have not harmed anybody, and the protest has been largely peaceful over there. So even whatever may be the numbers over here of the protesting farmers, maybe 50 or 100, I don't think so they were influenced by such videos, and such Khalistani movement in Punjab is not surging as yet. Punjab government is quite vigilant. The agencies are quite vigilant. But yes, the video which you have shown, or the video which is there on the social media of Gurpatwant Singh, there is a concern, and the agencies will be looking after.
Shashikant, you've been Director General of Punjab, sir. Now there are 2 perspectives. I have friends, family in Punjab. Many of them will laugh at the likes of Gurpatwant Singh Sandhu, saying this is what they do, this is who they are. No one takes them seriously, don't bother. There are others who would say you can't dismiss them, because if there are people, and we know that there are some people who are actually inspired by these kind of provocative videos, and they act on what the likes of Gurpatwant Sandhu are saying, then it is indeed a big threat to the Prime Minister's security, and it simply cannot be taken lightly. Which side are you on?
Look, I've worked in all the major intelligence agencies of the country. And our take whenever we analyze any situation is that we take the lowest possible scenario. I know for sure that Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, his Pannu not Sandhu, has no hold in Punjab. But again, being from the intelligence background, I will not take it lightly, because we take each and every into consideration. And like I told you, that we take the worst possible scenario. Yes, though we think that he has no hold here because his what was that 2020 something that was a real flop. But again, we can't ignore him. We have to always to keep him seriously, but take him seriously. But again, I'll say one more thing. This is very important. The way the propaganda is going on, talk is going on, right or wrong, I will not go into that. But again, please, my request is to the panelists is don't alienate Punjab, because this kind of sentiments are giving rise to a kind of feeling in Punjab as if the country is again started suspecting them. So for the interest of the nation and national interest, yes, let the inquiry report come. Supreme Court is monitoring them. Then we should do what it is.
I just want to tell our viewers that when Prime Minister Modi travelled to New York in 2014, Pannu and his associates were doing a protest outside Madison Square and wherever the Prime Minister was travelling. And from that time on, every once in a week or twice, either from a number which has a 0 +44 or a 001, which is the US or the UK, I get calls from Pannu, recorded, pre-recorded calls, and many people in Punjab get these calls. I cut it the moment I get it. But Nupur Sharma, the point that Shashikant makes is important. The moment you say that Pannu's view is the view of Punjab or of those protesters, without evidence at this moment to prove that the farmers who were there were actually reacting to Pannu's video, you run the risk of making it seem as if everyone else in Punjab, especially the Sikh population of Punjab, is all Khalistani. Now that is bad politics, it's bad for India's national security, and it could have the reverse effect in the state of Punjab. So that's the concern that someone like Shashikant has. You know, don't think that Punjabis are Pannu because they're not.
I'm quite shocked, brother Rahul, that you chose these words, an absolute generalization. I don't know where you got this information from.
I'm reacting to what Shashikant said. I'm reacting to what Shashikant says, where he says that you run the risk of alienating the people of Punjab further. But please go ahead and make your point. Go ahead. Go on, ma'am.
Allow me to finish. Please allow me to finish. The way you asked the question, pray tell me who from the Bharatiya Janata Party or even the Solicitor General of India himself, when did we ever say that Pannu represents all of Punjab? I don't think so. Absolutely not. For that matter, I can't also make light of the statement made by a Congress sitting member of Parliament, Ravneet Bittu, during the protests last year. Let's not forget that this is not just about Pannu. This is about the security of the Honorable Prime Minister of India. Most certainly, you can't make light of that. On your Hindi channel at the 6 p.m. debate, Rahul heard the former Special Director of IB, Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, say that in my entire career, and I have done multiple security protocols for Prime Ministers of this country, in my entire career, I have never seen such a breach of this level. And I think that says a lot. These are not my words. You can see the 6 p.m. debate on your Hindi channel.
Yashovardhan Azad was on our show yesterday, and he said pretty much the same thing on the Newstrack when he was appearing.
And I am going to, and that's why, please allow me to finish. All angles, and I would go a step further in saying all angles need to be probed. I'm sure the Honorable Supreme Court, in its right judicious discretion, has done its prima facie due diligence before handing over the probe to NIA. Maybe there is something which has come to the fore, which you and I, as general public and citizens, would not come to know. As again, Mr. Azad said that there are details of protocol I would not like to share on televised debates. And I think every angle needs to be looked into.
Oh, sure. By all means,
the Prime Minister
probe the charge, probe the video. Don't come to any conclusion, don't cast any aspersions till the time it is established. I think that's the point that Shashikant is trying to make. I want to go across now to Harmeet Singh Shah. Harmeet, how are people in Punjab, when you're talking to them during your election travels, reacting to what we've seen over the last 72 hours?
Well, there is one thing, one thing is very certain here, that there is absolutely no Khalistani thing happening in Punjab. You enter from Chandigarh, you go to Amritsar, absolutely there is nothing, there is no separatist sentiments. There are two groups in Punjab which espouse Khalistani cause. For example, there is one Dal Khalsa and the other one is Simranjit Singh Mann Shiromani Akali Dal Amritsar. Now, Dal Khalsa doesn't fight elections, Shiromani Akali Dal Amritsar does, but they have no popular support at all. Now, talking about this Pannu thing, one thing, people that they talk to us that he is not issuing these videos from the mountains of Tora Bora. He is sitting there in the United States or in the UK issuing these videos. And US being India's strategic partner, India can always lodge a strong protest and make a strong case out of it and hold him to account. People say that if why his videos are used, this is the perception here, his videos are used as a political tool to corner Punjab, to corner the Sikh community, because they were the prominent faces of this farm agitation that just concluded.
Okay, 48 hours on, the Punjab police has now filed one FIR against the protesters. They've been charged with section 283 of the Indian Penal Code, which is punishable with a fine of just 200 rupees. Meanwhile, a Home Ministry team visited the spot of the breach today. 13 officers of the Punjab police were grilled as the probe gathers pace. Politics too is escalating.
What led to this brazen security breach? Who is to blame for Prime Minister's convoy being blocked for 20 more minutes? The nation is awaiting answers, and the investigation into the serious security breach has kicked off. But it's investigation versus investigation now between the state and centre. An MHA team visited the breach site in Firozpur and got a detailed brief of exactly what transpired. They have issued a show cause notice to Bhatinda's SP and asked him to reply within a day. The Punjab police have filed an FIR and going ahead with their own investigation to take action against them for the serious breach.
Exclusive information accessed by India Today clearly shows that intelligence was shared regarding Khalistani groups and even the protests done by farmer unions. And it seems there was laxity on part of Punjab police.
While the centre has made it clear that an NIA probe is the need of the hour, Punjab government sources raised questions over why the Prime Minister went by road when he was in an all-weather chopper. The Punjab Congress added fuel to fire, calling the entire incident a ploy to avoid humiliation over less crowd in Prime Minister's Firozpur rally.
Humiliation को बचाने का एक प्रयास है, क्योंकि आज तक इतिहास में ऐसा हुआ नहीं होगा कि 70,000 कुर्सियों पे 500 बंदों को हिंदुस्तान का प्रधानमंत्री एड्रेस करे.
But the biggest bombshell was dropped by BJP's Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. The party's Punjab in charge called it a conspiracy by the Gandhis.
चीजें सब स्पष्ट हैं. पंजाब की सरकार और सरकार जिनके इशारों पर काम कर रही थी, वो कांग्रेस आलाकमान इस पाप के बोझ से कभी मुक्त नहीं हो पाएंगे.
जो फिरोजपुर में घटना घटी पंजाब के अंदर, वो संजोग नहीं था, वो साजिश था, और साजिश संजोग नहीं, और ये साजिश था, हत्या की साजिश थी.
Juxtapose this with Chief Minister Channi, who claims there was no threat whatsoever.
जो वहाँ रैली में जा रहे थे उनको रोकने के लिए 10 आदमी आ गए सड़क पे, और प्रधानमंत्री के काफिले को पहले पता चल गया, काफिला वापस ले लिया गया. इसमें जान को खतरा कहाँ हो गया? ये क्यों बात चलाई जा रही है कि मैं जान बचाकर आया हूँ, जबकि वहाँ कोई था ही नहीं, खतरा ही नहीं था कोई.
The unfortunate politicking over the Prime Minister's security breach has now spilled into the investigation, as well with the Congress government in Punjab and the BJP government in the centre at loggerheads. With Kamaljeet Sandhu, Bureau Report, India Today.
Does the FIR filed by the Punjab police show that they're not really serious about taking strict action against the perpetrators who breached the Prime Minister's security cordon? Because the FIR is under section 283 of the IPC, which basically involves a fine of 200 rupees. Shashikant, given the charges that have been levelled, given the gravity of the breach in the Prime Minister's security, do you think this is too weak a charge and really raises questions about whether the Punjab police and the Punjab government is serious about probing this matter?
Well, to start with, I'll say that I fully agree with what Yasho said on your TV yesterday, your channel. I have never seen such a grave sort of blunder on part of security, any police force, because like the VIP, when he came here, his security and everything was a problem of Punjab police. Punjab police failed miserably. I'll fully agree with Yasho there. And yes, I agree that this FIR is sort of neither here nor there. But rest assured, now Supreme Court is monitoring this particular thing. Heads are going to roll very soon.
Whose head should roll, sir? Who do you think carries the responsibility? Will it just be to the SSP of Firozpur, as we're seeing some people now try to suggest that it's the local SSP's responsibility, or do you think actual blame goes much further up the hierarchy?
I'll call it institutional blame, institutional failure on part of Punjab Police, because nobody acts in isolation in such serious matters. The Punjab Police, Punjab government, SPG, IB, all the agencies, all the institutions come together, and each of them has to take his part of blame. I'm sure that there was gross miscommunication between various agencies, but again, that notwithstanding, Punjab Police can't absolve itself of the charges, of the serious charges that are facing them now.
Meanwhile, a new video has emerged of around the time when the Prime Minister's security cordon was breached. The 1-minute, 20-second video shows the Prime Minister sitting in his car as protesters block the flyover. What's disturbing is that Punjab police officials can be seen just standing around without seriously trying to disperse the protesters.
Enraged protesters, police unable to disperse the crowd. Prime Minister Narendra Modi stuck on a flyover in Punjab's Firozpur. And all of this happens just 10 kilometers from the Pakistan border. A new video with India Today gets the best picture so far of what happened Wednesday when the Prime Minister was stuck in his car in this highly sensitive area for about 20 minutes. It shows Prime Minister Modi in the front seat of the SUV. His bodyguards flanked the car to protect him from any potential threat. The video also shows protesters on top of the flyover, separated from the Prime Minister's cavalcade by policemen. This 1-minute 20-second video establishes the glaring security lapses. Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi, speaking to India Today, had given the police a clean chit.
वहाँ SPG थी, टोटल कंट्रोल SPG कर रही थी. वहाँ BSF थी, वहाँ IB थी. इनकी टोटल इंटेलिजेंस टीम थी. जहां प्रधानमंत्री जाते हैं 5 दिन पहले से कब्जा उन्होंने ले लिया था जगह का. वहां जितना कंट्रोल था वहां सेंटर का कंट्रोल था.
पर स्टेट पुलिस की जिम्मेवारी होती है.
अरे जिम्मेवारी ये क्यों नहीं बोलते कि SPG का फेलियर है? ये क्यों नहीं बोलते कि दिल्ली इंटेलिजेंस का फेलियर है? ये क्यों नहीं बोलते प्रधानमंत्री की सिक्योरिटी का फेलियर है? खाली एक जो हमारे सिपाही इनको सुपुर्द किए हुए थे उनका फेलियर है. ये क्यों?
The video, however, confirms the police have a lot to answer for. The question remains how the protesters were allowed to congregate and, as visuals show, were just meters away from the Prime Minister's vehicle. The video also raises questions about the SPG, says former Home Secretary G.K. Pillai.
The keeping of the Prime Minister on the flyover for 15-20 minutes exposed is definitely a lapse on the part of the SPG. They should, moment the blockade was seen and within literally 30 seconds, a minute, they should have whisked away the Prime Minister from there to safe house, which would have been already designated.
Here are some questions the video raises. How could a spontaneous protest end up blocking the entire road? Why wasn't the area sanitized before the Prime Minister's convoy arrived? Why wasn't the Prime Minister's convoy alerted about the block? How did protesters get so close to Prime Minister Modi? Bureau Report, India Today.
You've now got G.K. Pillai, former Home Secretary in the Government of India, raising questions about the role of the SPG. Nupur Sharma, would you agree that that's something that needs to be probed as well? While the Punjab police must face an investigation, the fact that Pillai points out that the SPG has a vehicle, which is the escort vehicle, which is 1 kilometer or so at least ahead of the Prime Minister's convoy. When they spot trouble, they should have signalled back to the senior SPG officers. The Prime Minister's cavalcade should have just turned around and not been exposed and not been brought in harm's way. Therefore, the SPG too must take responsibility for what happened. Nupur.
There are 3 things I'm going to say. First and foremost, Rahul, I'm going to borrow from what Mr. Azad said on your 6 p.m. Hindi channel show. And he says, the SPG moves only after the state DGP gives clearance. And point number 2, The SPG takes a call on security threat only after the state police so advises the SPG that it is no longer safe and you need to change. Of course, as we have all known, as you have shown multiple times on all your media houses, there was internal communication about possible blockages. All alternative routes are discussed in the ASL. The ASL happened on January 1st and 2nd. On January 4th, there was a security rehearsal as well. So every possible alternative route to be taken by the Honorable Prime Minister of the country is discussed, is sanitized. It's not that the Prime Minister's protocol or the convoy goes, just on one fine day on a picnic. It is all properly sanitized beforehand. And after what Mr. Azad has said, that the SPG only moves after the state DGP's inputs.
No, but there are two different points that are being made. No, one second. And there is a difference. No, one second. I agree with you. I agree with you and Yashovardhan Azad when you say that the Prime Minister's cavalcade only moves after the state police gives the go-ahead. I think GK Pillai makes a different point that when the cavalcade is moving and you have an escort vehicle up in front and the escort vehicle reports back that there are farmers who are sitting on the road, at that time the convoy should have turned back. That's the point that GK Pillai is making, raising questions about the role of the SPG as well.
That's exactly what happened, Rahul. Is it not that the Prime Minister's convoy actually turned back? But I will again repeat what Mr. Azad said. SPG moves as per the inputs of the state police and the DGP's clearance. And point number two, if, for example, if what the Chief Minister just said to your journalist was true, please answer these three questions. Why did the state government file an FIR if the state police was not at fault at all? Because law and order is a state subject in Punjab. Point number two, why did the state government of Punjab set up a probe panel against who if there was no mistake on the end of the Punjab government and administration? And point number
you're making
three,
a different point.
Why did Mrs. Gandhi, no, I'm making the same point. Point number three, why did Mrs. Gandhi find it worrisome enough to take stock of the situation from the Punjab Chief Minister? And more importantly, why have Congress senior leaders like Mr. Manish Tiwari and Mr. Sunil Jhakar come on record to say that this is not Punjabiyat? In a democracy, the Prime Minister should have been given the right to
so you're absolutely right. The fact that the Punjab police blundered, the fact that there are serious questions on the role of the Punjab police is not in doubt. GK Pillai, Shashikant raises questions about the role of the SPG as well, asking whether the SPG should have turned back instead of coming head-to-head with the farmers being stuck on the road for 15 minutes. They should have taken the call of turning back earlier, and to that extent, the SPG's role also needs to be probed. That's the question he asks.
Look. I won't believe even for a second that Yasho said this thing that SPG takes orders from Punjab police. No, that's an independent organization. Yes, input does come, like what route is to be taken. They'll say that this particular route is going to be taken. So is it all clear? Yes, that kind of clearance has to come from the DGP saying that, yeah, the route is sanitized and safe, you can move ahead. Certainly, yes. But saying that the SPG has to take orders from the state police is blasphemous. And as far as Pillai's observation is concerned, I fully agree with that. I personally feel I've seen videos of Banaras, I have seen this video, whatever this happened in Punjab and in certain other places. The SPG's sort of efficiency it appears that this is just going down. This is not what the SPG is supposed to be. SPG is a masculine kind of organization. Block it, immediately take a turn back and head back to the next safe house. That is the standard drill.
No, I don't agree in the least to your reference to masculinity. The SPG just needs to do its job. It has nothing to do with being feminine or masculine. But that's besides the point. I don't want to get into that argument. But what's very clear is that the role of everyone involved in this fiasco needs to be probed. The Punjab police, the Punjab government, including the SPG officers who could have turned back sooner than they actually did. And the probe needs to be non-partisan, completely apolitical and professional. Only then will the truth be established. Before I conclude, Harmeet Singh Shah, any sense of how this could impact the Punjab polls? It's early days yet, but broadly, when you're speaking to intellectuals, what's the sense that you pick up? What potential impact could this incident have on how the various parties are placed in the Punjab elections?
Well, just few days ago, I was a bit surprised when I saw Channi and Sidhu offering freebies to the voters. And it made me realize as if, they are losing grip on the electorate because in any case, this is going to be a five-cornered contest now. But after this incident, and more so after the BJP machinery's backlash following this security lapse, I think it has served as a manna from heaven for Channi. Remember, in Punjab, people think differently from the rest of the Hindi heartland. If they see that their government is being attacked by the powers in Delhi and the powerful machinery in Delhi, they tend to, come as some sort of as a protective force around their government. So as of now, it's advantage Channi, but then again, a situation is very fluid. People are holding every political party to account here, and there is a lot of confidence also, especially among the Jet peasantry, after the agitation wrapped up and after the laws, the farm laws were repealed. Okay,
I'm out of time, but Nupur has a hand up, so in the interest of fairness, I'm going to give you very quick 20 seconds to conclude. Nupur.
If what Mr. Hamid is saying, then I'm sorry to say, given the rejoicing statements, how's the Josh Modi ji and kaun sa bum phood diya
that comment about how's the Josh was made before. S. Srinivas made that comment before the security breach. It didn't happen after the security breach. It happened before the security breach.
And what about kaun sa bum phood gaya? Harish Rawat made that statement today. I'm sure if Mr. Hamid's statement is to go by his opinion and viewpoints, then that means that perhaps it was planted and well planned and a conspiracy by the Congress party to get some...
Mr. Sapra, okay, 20 seconds, Mr. Sapra.
Leaders are putting.
Cheti.
See, if Nupur is trying to indulge into politics, then I will also like to ask the number of allegations what BJP leaders are imposing. What proof they have? Do they have any proof of whatever allegations they are saying? They are just going on, from Smriti Irani to Shekhawat to Giriraj Singh. They are just trying to, demean not only Congress but also the people of Punjab, the Punjabiyat. And let me also remind you that the head Jathedar of the Akal Takht has come out today and he has said that Sikhs and Punjab is being alienated. So what BJP has to say on the Jathedar's statement, Jathedar Gyani Harmeet Singh?
Allow me.
Okay, Nupur, I'm out of time, so you need to rush this.
The Chief Minister refused to answer the call in spite of such a security breach is the biggest proof. And point number 2, you alienated Punjabis during the 1984 Sikh massacre. You can never absolve yourselves from that.
You know what's very clear is that
it is Jathedar Gyani Harmeet Singh who's saying today, you are going to 84, I'm talking about today. Gyani Harmeet Singh has asked you a question today. Don't try to change the goalpost and refer other dates. You have to mention.
I'm out of time.
You have to give answers.
We'll have to have another 30 minutes of debate if we were to build on this. What's very clear is that Punjab thinks differently from the rest of the Hindi heartland. And it came out during the farmers' protest where the protesters continued for 300 odd days protesting despite all the efforts to try and get that protest to wind down. It didn't happen. So you have to be sensitive to how Punjab thinks, how Punjabi society reflects on what's happening. If everyone is treated as a Khalistani, I come from Punjab, I can guarantee to you that's a bad idea. But Nupur says it's wrong to insinuate that this charge is against all Punjabis or everybody is being treated as a Khalistani, so that's an unfair perception. But people perceive things the way they wish to perceive things, not necessarily in the way that things are being said. So it's a very volatile situation. It will most certainly have an impact on the elections. Does it see Channi's graph rise? How does it impact other parties? These are questions we will track very closely in the days to come. I want to wrap up this debate and thank our panelists for joining me. I'm slipping into a break. When we come back, 4 days on.